Well, my name is Benjamin Segobaetso, as it's already been and I'm from Botswana. I was born in a village called Mochudi, and I'd just like to take this moment to acknowledge people who have helped me. And first of all, I want to acknowledge my wife and my kids, Inhumane, and then that's Segobaetso and my 4-week-old daughter, Malaika. They are very important people in my life, and I appreciate them a lot. I also want to acknowledge the presence of my mother-in-law, Denise Milan. She managed me here in Canada, and she's always dependent on me and taking care of me. And she's here right now as always for me. So thank you very much, Denise. I would again thank my editor, Brenda Camino, for having picked up my manuscript and thought it was worthwhile reading and editing it, making it up to help us publish. My friends, as those who have been with me, supporting me, Ella, Oya, who's seeing today, Emmanuel, Labat, was there. They have been very encouraging, and all the people who made the food available, the snacks available. The Green Door Restaurant, I want to appreciate them for having this place for us, having this place to be launched here, And I would want to, most of all, thank my fellow citizen from Botswana. I just had a chance to interact with. I'm so honored that somebody from my country is here. Thank you very much for having me. I would like to just acknowledge the Whitberry staff who are always like companions throughout the day, every day. The Main Street community, which is always has an open heart, which is this street over here. I would like to acknowledge the Blue Crane senior level, and therefore their hospitality, our hostess, Chris Jen from senior level. And I have some ways to thank all of you in this room. I really appreciate your presence. Basically, it's basically about my life. Its setting is in Botswana. It's based in Botswana, and it mostly talks a lot about the Constitution of Botswana, which violates the United Nations Universal Covenant on Civil and Political Rights. And there is a clash between what the Constitution of Botswana says. Botswana is a signatory to this convention, which is compelling and is a binding convention. But unfortunately, the Constitution of Botswana is supposed to adhere with this convention, but unfortunately it doesn't. They didn't make it to adhere. So the basis of the whole thing is that every poor person in Botswana who is taken to the courts for criminal offenses or as a suspect is subjected to being put to court without legal representation just because they are poor and they cannot afford to pay exorbitant legal fees, as we all know that legal fees are exorbitant. Unfortunately, this is a scenario which has been going on for a long time, and I would estimate that 100% of the poor people in Botswana who are subjected to courts are not given legal representation. Not because it is their will not to have legal representation, but because they can't afford to have legal representation. Therefore, they are subjected to courts without legal representation, and this, in the long run, constitutes to a fair trial system. My stay here in Canada, what I experienced as an immigrant is that when I was faced with a deportation order, I was granted a lawyer free of charge by the government. And without that lawyer, I would have been deported. I would have been totally deported. But because I was given a lawyer, that lawyer was able to argue on my behalf, and because she knows the legal procedures and the precedences that my case follows, she was able to argue on my behalf, and I was not deported. But this is not the situation in Botswana, not just on immigration, but on daily criminal charges that you may face, whether you are innocent or not innocent. I'm going to take an excerpt from my book, which is page 24. On page 24.
Can everybody hear Ben?
Can everybody
louder?
Oh, louder?
Because
Okay.
there's a ventilation.
Okay. I'll do it I'll start it on page 23. Like most of my fellow countrymen, I was not knowledgeable of my legal rights. I did not even know what a constitution was and what role it was supposed to play in my life. Can everybody hear me? More louder? This is why today I advocate that legal aid should be recognized as a fundamental legal right in a democratic society. Back then, I did not know that the Constitution of Botswana was supposed to adhere to the United Nations Universal Covenant on Civil and Political Rights, and was supposed to grant me the right to be assigned free legal representation when I could not afford a lawyer for myself. Every poor person in Botswana was vulnerable to unjust trials and unfair imprisonment because the Constitution did not protect their fundamental legal rights. My conviction, therefore, contravened this binding United Nations covenant, which Botswana was a signatory to. If Botswana truly values civil and political rights, including justice for all, it would observe Article 14(3)(d) of this United Nations Covenant, which calls for every person who is subjected to a court trial for a criminal offense to be assigned a legal representative. The accused person should only represent him or herself out of free will, not because he or she cannot afford a lawyer.